Hi there, guys. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for joining us again today. Going to be looking at some sort of eye-opening articles for us. Going to be looking at some headlines of the day, but also going to be focusing in on what the CDC has literally just come out and said, as they've issued a public health warning to say, don't get the COVID vaccines. It's not safe. Do you know what I mean? It's a little bit sort of like late for that now, isn't it? With 5.65 billion people rolling up their sleeves. So going to be covering that article, as well as that dovetailing into another coming out from ukreloaded.com, that billions of COVID vaccinated have altered brains, diminished clarity, willpower and intellect. So going to look at those two articles together, hoping that this will be in our sort of like a way to desecrate the reputation of Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson and all these pharmaceutical companies, so that when these guys want to start rolling out the mark of the beast, you run for the hills. But here goes some articles of the day, guys. Here we have predictive programming, how a 1998 Nicolas Cage movie scripted apparently the death of Charlie Kirk. In the 1998 Nicolas Cage action movie Snake Eyes is suddenly back in the conversation because of a string of eerie similarities people are pointing to between the movie and the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Just going to leave that one there for you. But again, this is how they ordinarily do this, is it not? Via their predictive programming. We were saying just a few days ago around the TV series Lost, and just how infatuated that program is with the number 23. And so seeing how they sometimes do things in the revelation of a method, advising you of what they're up to in advance, also known as the slow reveal. But here you go. In other news, TikTok hires Israeli army instructor to lead new hate speech division to police American speech. Well, we've had over here, have we not, in the UK, the online safety bill? Lo and behold, apparently TikTok now is going to be having a new hate speech division. So TikTok has quietly handed the keys to its new American hate speech division to an Israeli military operative with deep ties to Israeli intelligence, as Israel continues tightening its grip over social media platforms. So watch out if you are on TikTok still with Israel. Astonishing article here. Israel threatens to kill Donald Trump if he exposes the truth about the Charlie Kirk assassination. Bombshell government files that have been hacked, leaked and authenticated and impossible to ignore reveal Israel designated Charlie Kirk a free speech terrorist, and he was slated for neutralization. Even worse, the same documents apparently show they've also warned President Trump that he's not above being designated with the same label and neutralized in the same manner if he refuses to toe the line. Trump, pale and alarmed, understands this isn't political theatre. It's a direct present danger to his life. So interesting what they're coming out with here. Many have said that Charlie Kirk was silenced by Israel because of the swing that he had with the younger generations, how imperative it was for Charlie Kirk to have had real support from that age group. And there were some questions that he was asking around Israel, especially around the October 7th attacks, sort of like the dome being switched off and a few other things as well that could have really changed a lot of things for Israel, and they obviously saw him as a threat. So quite interesting. We're seeing all of these articles, these headlines, these sort of like politicized things relating to the death of Charlie Kirk. And there you go, Israel literally turning around and warning Trump apparently. But in other news as well, sadly, California's officially declared America's poorest state. California has officially been declared America's poorest state, tying Louisiana for the highest poverty rate as a staggering 7 million residents, that's 17.7% of the population, languish below the poverty line. How long is it going to be until you're going to see boots on the ground and removing so many of the homeless as well? Go back to what we were saying a week or so ago with Fox News literally calling for them to be sterilized and killed by lethal injection. You know, just the abomination of it. Here you go, ABC's The View. Oh, that could be torn up, can it not? To be axed following Jimmy Kimmel suspension. So Federal Communications Commission Chairman Brendan Carr has dropped a bombshell in an interview revealing that ABC's The View faces imminent axing after Jimmy Kimmel's late night show. Well, I gotta say, man, I'd love to see the back of Whoopi Goldberg, you know, absolutely. But is this also part of how things are being used and manipulated now, using the death as a reason to axe some of these shows? But in that particular instance, that's not a hardship. Back to Israel, but in a good way. Here we go. U.S. ambassador has come out and laid it out on the line to say Israel is our God's chosen people. Mike Huckabee says God's chosen Israel, Jerusalem, and the Jewish people as a light to the world. It's going to annoy a lot of Palestinian and terrorist supporters. U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, believes that Jews are God's chosen people. Absolutely, amen. And that they are the foundation of all morality. I'll leave that one with you. Huckabee received standing ovations from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and more following his speech at the opening ceremony of a historical site in Jerusalem last week. He claimed that Jewish people are God's chosen people and Jerusalem is their undivided, undisputable indigenous capital from eternity. Got to respect that. It was 4,000 years ago here in this city on Mount Moriah where God chose his people, he said. He's not only chosen a people, but he chooses a place. And then he chose for the people in this place a purpose. The people were the Jewish people. The place was Israel. And the purpose was to be a light to the world. Huckabee also praised Trump for keeping his promise and moving the US embassy to Jerusalem, noting that while others waited 20 years, the Jewish people had waited 2,000 years. He was speaking at the opening ceremony of the Pilgrimage Road, a tunnel excavated under Palestinian homes next to Jerusalem's Old City, and took place at the city of David. The city is a biblical tourism site run by a settler organization in Palestinian neighborhood of Silwan. Just interesting there, people speaking out about this narrative. We were covering just yesterday, were we not, guys, just around all of this food that the UN is literally, they're the ones that are not taking it, all right, to Palestinians. Please go over and see Rebel News and Avi Yamini there with his sort of like, you know, behind the scenes videos where they're literally pallets and rows and rows and rows, pallets of food that are literally there. Drivers being turned away because the UN are the ones that are actually not distributing this food. Oh, but it's all Israel's fault. So in as much as we'll turn around and, you know, point out discrepancies and expose evil, doesn't matter who they are, what nation they're from. In this particular instance, that's not okay. As everyone sort of like, you know, shouts out about Israel, you know, starving the populace of, you know, the Gaza and the West Bank, etc. Just not true. You need to see the videos there for yourself. And the UN aren't doing anything about it, deliberately to stoke all this up as they're voting, you know, and speaking about the fate of Israel, dividing up the land. Unbelievable. In other news, let's go to some other news here, guys. In other news, we've got the earth has been shaken by 466,000 earthquakes so far in 2025, a real increase as we're seeing the earth also groan in anticipation of what lies ahead. Here, Venezuela launches military drills after Trump strikes on drug boats. The founder of New York City pro-democracy group pleads guilty to spying for China. That's really troubling. New report, police officers failed victims of Muslim rape gangs in Rotherham. Absolutely, they did. And it shows that there's a cover-up. Please also see our community post yesterday surrounding some of these things as well, where you've got Keir Starmer lying about literally everything. Why? Because he serves the father of lies. In fact, I'm actually going to take us to that now, if I may, just because I think it's important that we have a little look-see at what has been done. When you're making promises to, to people, then you really do need to be, delivering. So just bear with me, because I didn't intend to have this, but it's really important that we do, guys, that we go over here. Let's have a little look. And this was just yesterday. He lied to taxpayers, saying, oh yeah, we're going to reduce the standard of your living. That was an absolute lie. Lied to pensioners as well and took loads of that. Lied to the disabled. This is the UK government. Lied to students. So well and good that these guys had a free education when they were all growing up. They didn't have all of these student fees, and instantly getting so many students into debt so that they have to spend the next 2 decades trying to pay all this off. And it's absolutely disgusting, especially the standard of living that has been, placed in and amongst them. And these guys all got a free education. They didn't have any of these debts. He lied also to farmers as well, and then put all these enormous taxes so that farmers literally cannot survive. They cannot function. And they're closing down with the WEF's war on agriculture and farming. 13 nations and counting that have chosen to abolish this. There's no farming and there's no food, guys. Also lied to the fishing industry as well and started giving up all of our rights and, couldn't protect our waters, and now even the fish as well. That's having a massive impact on our livelihood. Lied to energy bill payers as well. It's hiked up those prices, like we were saying about privatization yesterday, and the dilemma that people have to have at the moment, heating or eating, because you can't have both in some cases. Lied to women, lied to small businesses, and lied to the victims of rape gangs, trying to turn around and saying, yes, we care about you. But Britain is currently a tinderbox of seething anger. Now so many people are waking up to the engineered civilizational collapse. The traitor class politicians responsible never told us they intended to destroy Britain, and far more importantly, we never voted for them to do so. But this is part of that, removing the national identity and the national sovereignty of a country by flooding it with, sort of like immigrants and the like as well, all gearing up so it can rejoin Brexit to be the second Club of Rome, the second kingdom in the Club of Rome's agenda. So just some interesting things there for us that we posted up yesterday, guys. Coming back to this, the Independent Office for Police Conduct has published new findings confirming a systemic organisational failure by South Yorkshire Police in its response to child sexual exploitation in Rotherham between 1997 and 2013, with a specific focus on the failure of senior officers to act on actionable intelligence. But they'll quite happily, arrest you for your tweets and for praying and for preaching. In other news, FBI investigating militant transgender social media users who seem to have had foreknowledge of Charlie Kirk's assassination. Seeing this pop up everywhere, are we not? And what's also, I'm sorry to say it, but many of the school shootings in America are by the transgender people. Professor Henrik Svensmark, the Earth's climate is not in a crisis. Back to the lying again. It continues. It's a bad career move to go against the idea that CO2 is the only driver of climate change, Danish astrophysicist Professor Svensmark said. But he's doing it anyway. In an interview with Freedom Research, Svensmark argued that the climate is not in crisis and that there are many predictions about global warming and that they are incorrect. According to Professor Svensmark, climate changes are a natural phenomenon driven by variations in solar activities and cosmic rays. Really interesting that someone's actually had the courage to speak out against this climate lie. We keep saying it here on our channel, that the climate lie is the beast systems GoFundMe project with trillions at his disposal. Just want to bring up some of these things here for you now. Apparently, according to recent articles, the chemtrails task force, Bill Gates' son Diminished experiment, is reducing lifespans by 20 years. This is what they're doing, spraying this all over and then trying to like manipulate the science accordingly. Okay, that wasn't the one I was actually looking for. This is really annoying. Forgive me, guys, as I just try and get some of this stuff up here. And so when we're looking at this climate lie as well, the aluminium, the barium and the strontium is the chemicals that they're literally spraying, the ingredients that they will have in over you. The weather is not changing, it's being modified. And you have to see our videos, guys, when it comes to Aerovax and what they're doing with Canada. Canada advances plan to vaccinate public with Bill Gates funded COVID mRNA aerosols. The hilarity of all of that. Going to see if I can find another few on this. So I didn't expect to be going here with this, but it's really important that we speak out against these lies. Okay, I may have to abandon this because this isn't the device to do this on. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ditch this. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, my bad. I want to try and get some other statistics in there, but I'll put those community posts in there for you a little bit later. But finally, someone's having the courage to speak out against this climate lie. People turning around and saying, I'm sorry, man, but the science does not add up. You've been saying this since the 40s and the 50s, relating to there'd be no oil, there'd be no caps, the ozone layer will be destroyed. Unbelievable. Okay, then, guys, let's take a little look-see to our main article that we're going to be covering today, with the CDC issuing a public warning. Don't get the COVID vaccine. It's not safe. A federal vaccine advisory panel has finally broken ranks, including a stark public warning that the COVID-19 vaccines are not safe for anyone, voting unanimously to shift official guidance away from blanket mandates and toward individual choice amid the deadly risks they pose. Talking about choices, we're talking about all the coercion and all of the manipulation that we've experienced from this, haven't we? All 12 members of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices voted to update the guidance. It's about time, isn't it? But when you're bypassing safety protocols and you're not having that particular discussion and you're just ushering them through, it's really telling, is it not? Just got some pictures, an image here that I want to read out to you that I saved a little bit earlier. That the vaccine was never brought in for COVID. COVID was brought in for the vaccine. And once you realize that, everything begins to make sense. And then you've got individuals like Bill Gates, boasting around. The world has about 7.8 million people. That's heading up to about 9 million. Now, if we do a really good job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 to 15%. It's unbelievable, as they've, sort of like banned all of our channels here for speaking out against this. When it comes to all of the tests and the metal, tests there, the self-assembly, nanotechnology, the sterilization of individuals, the aborted baby fetuses that are in these, the ghastly components of all of that. Let alone the fact that it's sort of like giving people sudden adult, deaths and injuries and supercharged cancers. Scientists discovered horrifying nanostructures cultured and incubated out of these COVID vaccines. Real-time self-assembly of stereo microscopically visible artificial constructions in incubated specimens of mRNA COVID vaccine products, mainly from Pfizer and Moderna. And got pictures I'll be showing you later in the community post. But the World Economic Forum finally tells the truth about the whole COVID, scam. It was a test of our obedience to rapidly forming New World Order. And this is what this is about. This is why we've had to stand up and speak up about these sort of tyrannies. It's been a test for these guys, mark of the beast, test run, so that people can sort of finally, realize what these guys were up to from the beginning. How they were the ones that weren't taking any of this, how they were forcing it, how they were shutting down the country, placing people on house arrest, removing their bank accounts, alienating them from family members, estranging them, and how they got away with all of this. And I remember being in the next county away from my children when all of this happened, and I was like, I don't care. And I remember driving, about 100 miles, and on there was nobody on the road, absolutely no one on the road except me. And I got to my children and I said to them, guys, I need you to remember that your dad was here, that he got here when the whole country was shut down. Really important that these sort of like ownerships that they come out with afterwards. The WF finally tells the truth. The CDC finally acknowledges all of this, what we've been saying all along, and they've just literally desecrated our ministry, pulverized it to a pulp for speaking the truth. And it is a test. This whole life, to one shape or degree, is a test. I'm going to Russell Crowe it. What we do now echoes in eternity. It's a test. And we have the opportunity as a channel to speak out against these things, caring about you, loving you enough to say, no, look at this video, see the science yourself. But people didn't, did they? So many Christians rolled up their sleeves. 5.65 billion people, guys, took this vaccine. And then there's, if you go over to X and you type in Sir John Bell and Jon Snow interview, where you've got Sir John Bell, chief of Oxford Vaccination Centre, explaining how the vaccines are meant to sterilize 60 to 70% of the world population. Apparently, he was not aware he was live. And the horror of, Jon Snow's, you literally stopped the interview halfway through because it's like, dude, what are you? Just let the cat out of the bag. So go and see Jon Snow and Sir John Bell interview, and just tell me that this had everything to do about health and safety. It wasn't about that. Please also see our video on Rumble, titled, the global genocide has begun. We were reporting just a few weeks ago, were we not, about primary schools and nurseries that are having massive, drastic reductions in number, in people turning up. Look what's happened to our channel. Here, permanent Pfizer Moderna genetic code installation into the human genome has profound consequences. They were saying, it's not gonna affect your DNA. It's not gonna sterilize you. There's no metallic objects there when it comes to self-assembly nanotechnology, connecting you up to the Internet of Bodies and the Internet of Things, with 5G kicking all off in that. They absolutely lied to everybody about this, and they're still rolling it out. We were reporting the other day about Ursula von der Leyen giving 380 odd million pounds to the Garvey, Bill and Melinda Gates, pharmaceutical companies to go and vaccinate 300 million children. So no one else got a problem with this. This is what I have to keep asking myself every single day, and I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking, wow, that was really painful. When it comes to our views, when it comes to people commenting, it was like yesterday, 10 really important bits of information, not one comment. And I'm like, what gives with you guys, really? Tough crowd, man. Seriously, we're talking about life and death matters here. We're talking about children being killed, maimed and injured, coerced and manipulated. We're talking about a whole generation that's just literally been, borderline sterilized. having decades of their life being taken off by what's being sprayed overhead, by what's been put in the food and into the water. And no one wants to talk about these sorts of things. We put some childish caricatures up on some posts and everyone's sort of like all in on that, aren't they? It's unbelievable. This likely explains why a study found mRNA shots disrupt thousands of genes, the injury and the damage that this has done to people and continues to still do to people. Having Bill Gates saying, sorry, but 72 vaccines aren't enough. We're going to have to, get into the womb and start jabbing them before they've even had their chance to live, to breathe. Switching them on and off in ways that drive mitochondrial failure, cancer, and immune dysfunction. That the DNA contamination in COVID vaccines does get into human cells, new evidence shows. Always coming out with it afterwards, isn't it? It was too late, isn't it? You can't get this out of your system. You can't get this out of your body. I know many sort of like health practitioners who have been like, I'm not going to be dealing with this. I'm not going to be sort of like putting this into other people, let alone wanting that in myself. How many channels speak out against these things that we have just done in 26 minutes? Turning around and speaking out against a climate lie. Yeah, God destroys the earth, not man. It's the beast systems GoFundMe. How many channels are coming out and saying all of this, guys? So few. And they've been entrusted with ridiculous piles of fruit. How many people are turning around and speaking out against the vaccine still? Speaking about the weaponizing of the food and the water against you. Connecting everything to the internet of bodies and the internet of things, all gearing up for the mark of the beast. People don't want to be having these conversations, do they? They don't want to be doing that because they want to be playing it safe. The path of least resistance. We have a really short period of time. And if the Lord is coming back tomorrow, then let it be that we spoke out and we said, do not take these things. Please do see our video here on our Rumble channel, okay, where we go through the actual contents of what's in the vaccines for you, so that you won't be ever taking any more of these. None of your family members will have it. And the evidence and the science is there. It's made for you. It's not me just talking like I am now. It's put together for you by professionals that actually are doctors. Not Bill Gates, who isn't a doctor. Not like Tedros Ghebreyesus, again, who's not a doctor. They haven't got a GCSE between them in science. But these are the guys that are literally sort of like rolling out all of this. And Pfizer seems to just be able to get away with everything. Albert Bourla, no recourse, despite this apparent controlled opposition that you get from RFK Jr. and Donald Trump. Mr. Stargate, he wants to invest, billions into mRNA vaccines. You think, come on, here we go again, another round. I'll leave I was going to read out some more of those pictures, but I'll save them for you to put into the actual community post. Okay. But this is what's really astonishing, guys. Unbelievable. All 12 members of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices voted to update the guidance, making individual-based decision-making the core principle, with an emphasis that the risk-benefit of vaccination is most favorable for individuals at increased risk of severe COVID-19 disease and lowest for those not at increased risk, according to CDC list of COVID-19 risk factors for people between 6 months and 64 years old. And there's been more people. So many people have been killed by this vaccine. More. If you want to talk about America, let's talk about America. That more people died through COVID vaccines than in World War I, World War II, and the Vietnam War. We've got videos to prove it, and I'll probably try and put that in the community post for people later. Infowars.com reports the ACIP voted against a motion that recommended states and local jurisdictions should require a prescription for COVID-19 vaccines. I was already getting notifications through the school for my youngest daughter, because they're still pushing those over there, making sure that she's, going to be excluded from it. The discussion of the COVID-19 vaccines were led by ACIP member Retsef Levi. Levi presented 4 motions for the committee to vote on to recommend the CDC promote 6 specific risks and uncertainties associated with the vaccines, to recommend requiring prescriptions for COVID-19 vaccines, to recommend that patients should be informed of the risks of COVID-19 and its vaccinations before receiving the shots, and to update the current guidance so that coronavirus vaccines for all people should be based on individual-based decision-making. It's too late now, isn't it? The CDC, you just see the CDC's logo, please. And it's literally, do you know what I mean? The Center for Disease Control, like Chemtrail City. Now that makes sense, doesn't it? But it's all well and good coming out with all of this now. Why? It's because they need to be sort of like, crisis managing a little bit, damage control, if you will, trying to regain your trust for another round of all of this, saying, oh yeah, we're going to be, doing this, so people can have this on an individual based decision making. No, it wasn't. You were coerced. Over here in the UK, when it came to British nurses, they were clapping you and then they fired you. Manipulating people to get mandated, making everything impossible, shutting down the whole country, not being able to go out. But they kept the strip clubs open, they kept the nightclubs open and the pubs and the bars, but they shut down all the churches. Why? Because all these churches receive tax benefits and payments from the government. And you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you. Ordinarily, in other situations, through diseases or famines or plagues, Christians have really stood up and said, no, we're going to be counted amongst, people. We're going to be laying our lives down with them if that's to be the case, and get a martyr's crown in the process, although that wasn't the initial aim. But to be Jesus to these people and open up doors when the whole world was shut down. The psychological impacts that this generation is still feeling when it comes to young people being starved and deprived of contact and relationship with their friends and their peers. The damage that's done to so many economies, so many businesses, so many people's professions. So many actually good people really did also stand up, and they lost epically because of it. Prepared to suffer and experience a little bit of loss of doing the right thing. But it was all manipulated. It was all coerced. All of the TV programs, all of the apparent science, all of the fear mongering, all of the manipulation, all of the deviance attached to these things. And they weren't forthcoming because they didn't want to have you asking the question, excuse me, before I take that, what's in it, please? You would with any food. If someone offered you a plate and you didn't know what it was, if you had an allergy or something, you might want to know what's in that. They didn't want you asking questions. That's what science is, by the way. Critically analysis and critically analyzing something also. That's science. Testing things out is also science. And yet when they brought these vials out and put them under body temperature and under a magnifying glass, they saw all of these self-assembly nanotechnology bots in that, connecting everybody up to the Internet of Things and the Internet of Bodies. With 5G and 6G ringing out and all the other masts, they were able to manipulate and cause real damage to vital organs, or place them strategically on people's brains so that the brain-computer interface can have a two-way conversation in that sense. Getting things ready for Project Bluebeam, when all of a sudden you're going to be able to hear, apparently, the Lord or whatever in that way. But it was never around consent. It was always around manipulation. And they got all of those, professional actors in and everybody else when it comes to the jabs and keeping caps on. Various professions, various sports personalities and movie stars that did all of this. These are the guys that need to be, completely and utterly boycotted still to this day. pharmaceutical companies, these guys that have literally Joseph Mengele style killed millions and millions and millions of people, sterilizing, children in India, in Africa, and in developing countries by Bill and Melinda Gates. This is what's happening, guys. And we want to have like childish, immature caricatures in people's posts and not discuss these things. Is that just me, or am I missing something here when it comes to the level of importance and it comes to speaking out against all of these things? Ephesians 5:11 says, have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, rather expose them, not turn a blind eye, not to ignore them. Because most of these channels ended up getting right through first and second pandemics. How is that possible? Not enough Christians stood up against these tyrannies, and since then either. During the committee's discussions, they considered evidence about whether genetic material from the mRNA vaccines could be incorporated into an individual's genome, and whether the vaccines could cause cancer and birth defects. Absolutely. The committee also considered evidence linking the COVID-19 vaccines to the death of children. Levi argued that the COVID-19 vaccines are being treated like over-the-counter drugs, despite offering questionable benefits for a lot of people. And all the elderly and all the frails that were there, they were literally forced to have all of this. And those that ended up trusting their GPs and their doctors and nurses and other practitioners believed and put their faith and their trust in them, as they were sort of profiteering enormously with huge financial incentives for rolling this out to innocent people. No doubt each one of us could probably name a family member or a close friend who has been impacted severely by this. And yet these are the guys that are now wanting to get your trust back with this kind of like all too late show and tell. Revelation of the method, the slow reveal, when we've known all along. Primary school science, man. In August, the FDA approved the latest round of coronavirus vaccines, but only for persons aged 65 or older who have risk factors for severe disease. And why we're talking about this? Because you've got Keir Starmer over here in the UK that's investing over £1 billion in new vaccines. Doesn't that scare anybody? That they're pumping out this Aerovax overhead to avoid those that are vaccine hesitant or cottoned on, vaccinating you without your consent when it comes to the food and the water and everything, and dental floss that we've been reporting on since we've come back to YouTube. Don't people care about that? We really do need to share these videos and these posts, guys, that we had. No one commented on anything that we said yesterday when it came to our community post. What's that about? Come on, guys. In May, Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr. directed health officials to stop recommending the COVID vaccines for otherwise healthy children. No, just stop them, full stop. This is what they're saying, that you need to have like 70 or 80 vaccinations before you're even like 2 years old. God did not create the human body and us so defectively that we needed pharmakia and its dependency. But this is what it's all about, getting people dependent on drugs. And they're not really trustworthy when you end up in hospital as well. With trying to harvest your organs, offering you euthanasia and death. So all they want to deal in is death. Absolutely astonishing. I'll leave that article there. Going to bounce over to another article which just dovetails this. Why there's dangers to it. Things that you might see in and around your loved ones or your friends. Billions of COVID vaccinated have altered brains, diminished clarity, willpower, and intellect. World-renowned immunologist Dr. Sukurit Bakardi is sounding the alarm to warn the public that COVID mRNA vaccines have unleashed a worldwide wave of systemic vasculitis that has altered the brains of billions of people who receive the injections. Systemic vasculitis, whatever, sorry man, medical terms and dyslexia not going to be good together, is a multi-organ inflammation of the blood vessel lining. Dr. Bakdi warns that mRNA shots have triggered this deadly condition to surge among the COVID vaxxed, and it is now damaging brains, hearts, and other organs on a mass scale. They contend that the shots trigger immune activation centered on the endothelium across the brain, heart, liver, and beyond. The endothelium is the thin cell layer lining these blood vessels. Bakdi warns that vascular injury destroys neurons and produces a silent, widespread neurological decline. Seeing so many people also having this when they're going outside and they're having like brain fog, sitting in their own homes, and then all of a sudden having like ears ringing and things. Ordinarily having reasonable health, and yet finding that, you know, they're struggling with the very basics, as their immune system literally just crumbles in and around them. He further claims the result is a population level shift in cognition and behavior, diminished clarity, reduced willpower, and a blunting of natural intellect that leaves people less able to push back against medical coercion and overreach. So that's the reason why, you know, I'm pushing so hard on this, because I haven't had this. Because I refuse point blank to allow that anywhere near me. I'd rather run myself through than ever trust a hospital, a GP, a nurse, or any pharmaceutical company. I'd rather die in agony. Honestly, that's where it's come to now. But this diminished clarity was what they're spraying psyoptically overhead, reducing people's willpower, making them really lethargic and making them not want to go out and, you know, do activities or go and exercise. A blunting of natural intellect as well, stupefying the masses with all of these bariums, salts, and everything else that's there, you know, all the metallics that are being sprayed over, mercury as another. Bakdi raised the alarm during a video interview, warning that the problem is so severe that there are billions of people whose brains have been destroyed by the COVID shots. That's just an astonishing paragraph. That this vaccine has destroyed billions of people's brains. The award-winning former professor of microbiology argues that people have been permanently altered by the experimental injections. The mRNA vaccines cause the destruction of brain cells, Dr. Bakdi warns. Obviously, and that is what we are now experiencing. We're seeing, I'm afraid to say, billions of people whose brains are not working anymore. Not as they should be. They are altered, he continues, and they don't have the willpower anymore. They don't have the intellect anymore. Just wondering whether or not we just play that, shall we? Let's have a little play of that.
Now, I'm going to be very honest with you.
Let's see if we can get away with this.
Now, I'm going to be very honest with you. I am no longer optimistic anymore. And the reason is very simple. The reason is because I'm afraid that these RNA vaccines, mod RNA vaccines, whatever you want to call them, have already done their job. And what their job has been, this is incredible, was not even known to the planners because they didn't realize that what they were doing. But it is what I said years ago, that the vessels throughout the body are going to be attacked from top to toe. This is something that never happens in any disease, okay? Systemic, meaning the brain, the heart, the liver, everything can be attacked, the vessels. And the trouble is that it's turned out to be true. So this systemic vasculitis leads to destruction of brain cells, obviously. And that is what we are now experiencing. We're seeing, I'm afraid to say, billions of people whose brains are not working anymore, not as they should be. They are altered, and they don't have the willpower anymore. They do not have the intelligence anymore to move things. And so the only chance we have is to stop this mRNA crime, because this crime is going to destroy us. The trouble is that they're rolling out this RNA vaccines all over the place, and people don't realize this is being done.
Okay, you heard it, yourself there. Back to his research points also to several proposed pathways, complement activation on endolethal services, including anti-spike or anti-PEG pathways. And he's going through a whole lot of science there, man. It's like, dude, I am never going to be able to pronounce that. He argues these mechanisms acting together can explain real-world signals seen after the vaccination. The outcomes are manifested in the real world as surging reports of cardiac inflammation, neurologic events, microclotting, and sudden deaths. Several red flags have been escalating among those who received the mRNA injections, including persistent signals, reports of spike fragments or vaccine mRNA detected in blood or tissues weeks to months later. The platform effects, where animal work suggested lipid nanoparticles can provoke inflammation even without the spike payload, raising questions about what's due to LNPs versus the encoded antigen. The underestimation risk. He says human evidence of serious adverse events is piling up, and poor separation of post-infection versus post-vaccination effects has masked true risk. This is not the first time Bakti has raised the alarm about the genetic shots. However, as Slay News reported last year, Bakti testified that COVID mRNA shots are life-threatening to humans. He warns that pushing the injections onto the public only benefits infinitely evil global elites. And then you've got, like, the pedophiles that want to sort of like go and meet up in the Bilderbergs in, Stockholm, Sweden, and start having their depopulation sort of like, business matter discussions. And you got all of these guys literally turning around the lie, oh, we're overpopulated, we've got to cull the herd. Please see our video and our live and the evidence pertaining to that in our community posts, that the world is not overpopulated. Doesn't need to have this culling of the herd. Please see our other posts relating to these guys. Dr. Bakti issued the warning during testimony before lawmakers in the German parliament. He's quoted as saying this: the vaccination turned out to be the greatest blessing for the money and world elites, for the pharmaceutical industry and politics, he declared. They could pursue their own interests under the common slogan, everything for public health, everything for the well-being of the general public. To achieve this goal, they created the World Health Organization. Please see our videos on our Rumble account relating to what new powers that the World Health Organization and the pandemic treaty now have. That they can start force vaccinating you against your will, imprisoning you accordingly. these non-democratically elected people, basically a private association that is in the process of gaining power over the healthcare systems in the 190 member states, all wanting to hook that up to AI healthcare, like we've been making this connect before. Who hasn't heard about the mysterious sudden cardiac deaths occurring around the world, he continued. And they are just the tip of the iceberg, he warned. Heart disease caused by vaccination is on the agenda of young and old alike. Concluding his testimony before German lawmakers, Bakti declared, anyone who praises RNA vaccines as safe and effective, anyone who claims that vaccination rarely causes serious side effects, is either incredibly ignorant or infinitely evil. They are committing a crime, just like everyone who actively or passively pursues and supports this vaccination. Because it is now scientifically proven that vaccination can only have negative effects, and this to a life-threatening extent. Bhakti characterizes this as a crime against humanity. He is loudly calling for an immediate halt to mRNA programs before, in his view, the damage becomes irreversible. However, Bhakti and other leading experts fear it's already too late for most. Really interesting articles coming out there for us. It's really important, guys, that we don't give up what we're still trying to pursue with all of this. That billions of COVID vaccinated have altered and diminished brains. That's troubling. Okay, let's see what you guys have got to say in and around this. But doesn't that dovetail really well when it comes to the CDC issuing, a public warning? Don't get the COVID vaccine. It's not safe. Unreal. Hi there, Ashley. Bless you. Thank you for being here. I know it's early for you guys. Hi there, Overcome. Hi, JP. Yeah, JP saying just yesterday, trying to convince my mum in denial about her own mysterious ALS after jabs, not to allow my 102-year-old grandma to get jabs. Oh, won't hear any warnings. Ah, bless her. That's a good innings, 102, man. That's a great effort, that is. Good for her. But no, this is it as well, because they're so trusting, aren't they? And it's like I sent so much information to my family. I was like, please read this. I was begging them. Me and my sister, we've never had an argument in our life apart from one time, and it was about the vaccines. It's the only time, and she didn't really argue. I was the one arguing. I was going for it, man. Full hammer and tongue, begging her, please don't believe what I have to say. Then watch this video, see the evidence for yourself. Or better yet, go and get one of these vials, which was what the police force ought to be doing right now, sticking it underneath and, warming it up, and then seeing for yourself what's in these things, and then asking yourself, do I really want to put that into my arm, not knowing what that's about? But so many people are so trusting. They don't want to be the older generation. They don't want to be a burden to their families or their grandchildren. So they take that responsibility. That was my dad's line. He was like, no, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to be a burden to my, his grandchildren. I don't want them to get here. I don't want them. Do you know what I mean? But that was how things were being coerced and manipulated. I'll take this, or your granny's going to die, or take this, or else. It had nothing to do with health. It had everything to do with compliance. It had everything to do with the Georgia Guidestones in reducing the world's population. And how successful that's been, either through the deaths that we're now seeing being rolled out on a grand scale with some sort of like time delay to these vaccines, or we're just seeing people being sterilized. I can't remember the last time I walked around the town and saw, loads of, mums or children running around anymore. They've successfully done that. That's why they blew those things up and took those down. It's like mission accomplished. But it doesn't matter. And this is what's really hard for us as people that, you know, have those around us, and desperately trying to warn them about these things by saying, look, please don't take this. And they don't listen to us. And that's what's really, really hard. And it's painful to see that people are going to have to make their own informed decision. We can only do what it is that we can do. So we've talked about today around these jabs literally having a really adverse effect on your brain, your willpower and your motivation and everything. We've turned around with scientific evidence with that from a professional practitioner himself declaring all of this. And now we're saying around the CDC itself saying that don't get these vaccines because they're not safe. But this is what we've been saying all along. So it's really heartbreaking. And I think this is what's really hard for us as a church when we're speaking about the vaccines or some of these dangers, or we're sounding the alarm, or we're telling people that the Lord's coming back soon, is that people don't want to listen to this. They don't want to have that sort of a conversation. They don't want to be told, because it's almost like, you know, against their cognitive dissonance. They don't want to be told that they've got something wrong. They want to be making that decision for themselves. How much of that is really in and around pride? You know, I know that, you know, if what I was saying about the vaccines had come from another member of my family other than me, I know they would have probably taken it, because they just see me as a quack. Oh, you're the one, you're waiting for the Lord. You're a conspiracy theorist. You're a conspiracy nut job. It's like, no, I deal in facts. I deal with the evidence. I ask the questions. I pull on the thread and I go, look, see. And I open up the opportunity to all of that. And I do a lot of reading and a lot of research for what it is that we produce. I don't just sort of think, oh, yeah, that sounds good to me. I'll believe and build my life around that. No, it's not. It's about asking those questions yourself. So I feel for you, JP, there. So many are in denial about that. And they put so much trust into these GPs, these, you know, doctors that have just been saying, oh, no, it's all fine. And it's not been okay. Is that Lucinda Ardern, whatever she's called, that former, you know, New Zealand Prime Minister? She was an absolute monster, getting knighted and rewarded for murdering so many New Zealanders. Entire clinics died. You know what I mean? Or people on the books just completely died. And what they went to, and the lengths they went to hide all of the evidence, to bury dissenters, to label us, you know, as crazy, as conspiracy theorists, as anti-vaxxers, how they demonized us. And then now look what happens. It's unbelievable. Hi there, Donna. Bless you. Oh, it's earlier there. Yeah, Donna's saying evil has to let us know what they are doing, because when we take it to heaven courts, we can't say we had no idea. Hollywood has been showing us in movies and television shows. Can't say didn't know exactly part of it. They do their revelation of the method because they think it's bad form not to tell you in advance what it is that they're going to be doing. But it's a mocking and it's a scoffing as well as they do that. So we've seen all of this. How many videos and films that we had about epidemics, pandemics, and about, you know, Armageddon, and how many of like destruction of the earth, or, you know, all of these illnesses and viruses that kill everybody all off. It is preparing everybody for it in that particular way, grooming them, you know, desensitizing them to this narrative. And we've had the warnings, and this is part of our ministry here, guys, is that we speak out against this. It's not popular, and you can see for yourself that what we speak out against is not popular. People don't want to know also. People want to turn a blind eye and pretend that they've got editorial control with what it is that they see on the wall. People don't want to know. They want to go to something nice and fluffy and have their ear tickled. They don't want the hard facts. And I can understand that a little bit, because it is full on what we report here. And it's always full on. It's never sort of like easy streets, because that's not our ministry. But some people don't also want to know about some of this. To them, it's all past. Or perhaps they're ashamed that they actually took it. The question, what we're trying to really do now in the time that we all have left, is to say, brothers and sisters, please, whatever you do not take these COVID-19 vaccines. Because I believe, and the science is proving, that they affect and alter your DNA with aborted baby fetuses in them. I wouldn't want that in my body. My body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. I wouldn't want self-assembly nanotechnology in there, and I definitely wouldn't want to be sterilized. Not a fan, man. You ain't taking my masculinity like that. These are the sorts of things that I'd be worried about. I'd be concerned in and over. I wouldn't want it to shorten the days of my life. I'm not putting my hope and my faith and my trust in this pharmakeia, satanic pharmaceutical industry. They're just profiteers from death. These arrogant elites that think that the world is overpopulated to the degree that they have to kill and cull us all. That's all they want to be doing, is just to kill us all off. The long and short of it is that's their ultimate agenda, to bring into perpetual harmony and all of this nonsense from the Georgia Guidestones. Please see our post a few days around Henry Kissinger, what he was speaking about eugenics to the World Health Organization. This is what these guys have as an agenda. They're not quiet about it. Well, we, Kamala Harris, when we reduce population, and the Club of Rome's Limits to Growth book, they were the ones that really sort of like, hammered and tonged this. And what's astonishing, guys, is that this isn't just pertaining to one nation against another nation or one people group. This is global. This is every government, every country. They spray every single sky. They weaponize the food and the water everywhere. And we are that target. And that's why I've been saying it. I'm going to keep on saying it. It's why I also think the Lord just says that trip's going to be 7 years. That's it. Because any more than that, ain't no one going to be alive. Absolutely, as per the word of God. But also for the sake of the elite, those days are going to be shortened. I personally think that day shortening is from now until when the trib starts. Because if these monsters were to carry on for another year or two, there wouldn't be anybody left alive. There wouldn't be. A couple of nukes, a couple of wars, a couple of plagues, a couple of this, a couple of that. They could literally go and bury themselves in their bunkers, all right, and go hide away for like a week or two, or maybe a month, all right, drop off the radar, and they can literally just, automatically send out these airplanes and just like crop dust us all and just kill us all off. They could literally do that right here, right now. It's only the Lord that is stopping that evil, pushing back, saying no. And this is what's going to be, the case when it comes to the mark of the beast as well, guys. He causes all, both great and small, to receive this mark. He causes everybody. Everybody's not, exempt from it. So these people that sit behind the positions and say, right, we're going to bury this guy's work because we don't want him getting any traction. We don't want him, and other people sort of like listening in to what he's got to say. This is also coming out for you guys as well. You're not going to be spared of that. You're not spared when you drive back home and you see the skies as well, unless you live underground. You're not spared when it comes to food and water being weaponized against you either. And no doubt in these places that you end up working, you're the first to be coerced and manipulated into taking this vaccine and jab. It's not okay that we're seeing so much of this. And our heart is to turn around and say, yes, do not place any trust in pharmaceutical companies. God gave you an immune system. Be blessed in that. Make some decisions if you have to, where you might have to experience a certain degree of loss because of what the world is pushing upon you, like digital IDs, like vaccine mandates, like other tyrannies that they insist that you must have or be excluded. Okay, embrace the exclusion. But it's our job as well to defecate these reputations as well, because these guys are now all trying to get you back into bed with them by saying, oh, yeah, we're aware of these vaccines. And, oh, yeah, you've got the RFK Juniors and he's controlled opposition. But, yeah, he's quite happy to stick wearable devices on every single American. Oh, yeah, we've got to get people's trust because people have woken up to what these were all around, what the real sinister purpose of it all was, and the manipulation of it. And just how nasty it was, pitting family members against each other in that way. Not being able to be with your loved ones, being segregated like that. They destroyed so much through this. People forget about that. And they go placing their hope and their trust in these individuals and giving them another term in office. Mr. Father of the vaccine warp speed. Should have been the end of that man's career. Just like it was in the other instance over here in the UK, where you've got, idiots in number 10 promoting all of this. And yet these are the ones that end up having COVID 4, 5, 6 times. I told you I hang out with my family members and they're all sniffing away, whatever. No immune system, all gone, butchered and destroyed. And I'm sat there sitting pretty. Not so much as a sniff or whiff. So I didn't take this poison, and I never would. This is why they're so intent on making sure that everybody has it. Because with all this smart dust and everything else that connects you up to the Internet of Things and the Internet of Bodies, they need every single person to have all of this so that they can know what's going on in under your skin. That next, step of surveillance, as we're being told, so that these technical devices can see what's going on with our organs, how we're feeling, our moods, our health, other sort of things, gearing us all up ready for that mark of the beast. So don't go putting your hope or your faith or your trust in the FDA, the CDC, the World Health Organization, the United Nations, the World Demonic Forum, the Gavi, Bill and Melinda Gates, and all of these other, professionals and famous people don't believe in them at all. You've got the Peter Thiels that's doing this sort of like, 4-part thing right now as we speak around the Antichrist. Mr. Bilderberg member. Do you know what I mean? That guy's going to be the right-hand man of Satan, I'm telling you, in the tribulation. And then we've got Sam Altman invested in, micro chips and the like, brain chips. Yeah, the guy who likes to sort of like sleep with his own sister, that guy. Then you've got Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates all coming up with their synchron alternative, brain chip. And then you've got, Musk's Neuralink as well. These guys, this is why we speak and we expose these individuals so that you will never go anywhere near what it is that they're selling you. Immaterial of convenience or perk or whatever. Because these vaccines did nothing for you but caused you harm. As will the content, as what we read in Revelation 14, 9 through 11, where an angel flies overhead over the whole world, because it can't be trusted to be on front of a camera or anything like that. It's going to go over the whole world and speak it out. Anyone takes this mark of the beast, anyone bows down to this image. And now you've got, all of these elites that are literally now crisis managing it, sort of like trying to cushion the blow, trying to sugar you all up again, ready for the next round. Please do not be deceived. Be a Berean. Do your own homework. I would encourage you to see the videos that we place in our community post. I know that there's a lot, but I want to give you a choice, something that these guys do not believe in giving you. It's really important that we do. And we shout aloud whilst we're still here, so that when we walk off the field and we end up on the clouds, it can be like, okay, Lord, that was the race and that's what I run. Amen. God's helper. Jesus is the Christ. Absolutely. Yeah, JP. Yes, it's a revelation. It's to mock. It's to say, aha, you don't know. We're doing all of this. It's like they can't help themselves. It's so childish. Well, our revelation of the method is this. Should we do some of that there now for them? All right. Our revelation of the method is this. Well, God's going to give you lot his adverse reaction when it comes to the mark of the beast with his sores and boils. How do you like those apples? You guys want to block out the sun? Fine. Then the Lord God's going to block out the sun and the moon and the stars as well. You want depopulation? Aye, a third of this and a third of that. You want to start, saying that there's global boiling and global warming? Okay, you can have scorching heat then for your troubles. Do you know what I mean? That's God's revelation of the method, the whole revelation. And he is the one that we are wanting to be meeting with right now as he is revealed. It's all that's left. Good for you, Donna. I never took the vaccines. I've, as a child, almost died from them. I got COVID and I stayed home. It was very hard, but God gave me his immune system. Psalm 91. Bless you. No, exactly. There's just no way I was ever doing any of that. No way. All my children. And coercing my kids with none of that. Thank you. Not happening. And then many of us were sick and whatever, and they're spraying all these things over, weakening our immune systems now, tearing down that. I've got a chest infection that I cannot budge, and I don't smoke. Morning, daughter Vishaka, bless you. So I just flew right through all of that. Here we go. Well, hi, Overcomer. Yeah, I'm not jabbed. God bless you. And there's no judgment for those of you that did. Okay, for one reason or another, there's no judgment here. Okay, but the whole point is that learn from this, learn from those mistakes. Don't go doing it again, no matter what. And if you've got to go without for something, go without it. Yeah, JP saying, I pray Dr. Batke is saved. He's been such a voice of reason since the jabs came out and about. Absolutely. And the rest of them are just controlled opposition. But my husband can't breathe, never smoked, chemtrails. Exactly. They say long COVID. The tests had stardust in them. Exactly. And this is what is all of these, biosensors and smart dust, all these, aluminiums and metals and metallics spraying aerovacs overhead so that they can get everybody. That's just the most evil of evil. Like I was saying, forget all of these solar panels. We need surface to air missiles to shoot these planes down out of the sky. How is that keeping everything safe? And then you got, over here in the UK, that they have like, no joke, their weather modifying program is called Satan, blotting out the sun, killing off all of the bees. And I see it every day. You used to get a little bit of sunlight, and oh my goodness, pure out go the planes doing all these crisscrossing. And I saw it the other day, just one that just sort of like spluttered. It was probably having its canister being changed. This is an innocent, indiscriminate killing and poisoning. No one else have a problem with this. Hello, wall. Nothing. Silence. You can't see that with your own eyes? You're not bothered about any of that? Or are you just immune? Yeah, powder COVID. It's called Aerovax. They've been doing it to Canadians. Hi, Mike. Bless you, mate. Bless you. Welcome. Keep things real here. I'm raw. I don't back down and I don't shut up. I say what I see because that's my job as a watchman. I take that really seriously. You're in really good company here with a lot of really amazing people that come in, bless us, and kind of support us and what we do. It's really important, as part of our remit here, guys, is Ephesians 5:11. That's our verse. We expose evil. It ain't nice. It's not pretty. And I get so tired of bumming you lot out, weighing you down with all this bad news. It's not okay. But that's just the state of the world that we're in. And if a watchman does not sound the alarm with what he's shown, then it's on his head. It's not on our head here. We speak about everything. We don't shy away from none of it. And this is our 7th channel. And the, same amount elsewhere that's been teared down. Exactly. Donna's saying here, control water, food, power grid, sky, air, money, control the people. Absolutely. And aren't they just doing that with everything at the moment, with these Agenda 2030 goals that they've got? Yeah, exactly. You are part of a really great channel family. Yeah, wearing Christian clothes does that. Hi, June, one per justice. John, sorry, I'm flagging today, guys, so I haven't been sleeping well. Yeah, 1 to 10 years to have side effects. It's got this time delay thing to it. And they're saying that these chemtrails as well are taking off decades of people's lives. Yeah, hoping that we all go home soon. Yeah, JP saying, amen, Dan. No one wants to listen to born again believer wacko. Common sense is so rare now. Daughter of Ishkar saying, yeah, when they slip up and tell the truth, people don't listen to that either. And almost all the demons have told the truth in a mishap. Whole doing speeches. Yeah. No, exactly. It's just part of it. But because they serve the father of lies, who's nothing but a liar, thief, and a murderer. That's all. That's his very nature. And all those that are Luciferian cult members and bow down to him are doing the exact same thing. And as the church, we have to be standing out against all of that, even on this platform. We have to be pushing back on the beast systems guidelines and saying, no, I'm sorry, I don't consent. I care about people. I love people, for them not to be deceived, not to be fooled, not to be poisoned, so they can at least be praying up and being aware of what's out and about, so that they're informed, that they can have choices. And we've got to, like we keep saying here on this platform, that we're trying to model and mirror what it's like to stand up against this beast system. Because when we're taken out and when we're gone, it's going to be our example on how it is that we operated, how it is that we fought, how it is that we served the Lord. And I tell you, God hates a coward. And I'm going to be crapping myself when I meet him, just because I know I'm going to be on holy ground. But there's some things that I'm going to be able to lock eye with him about. And when it comes to ministry, we laid it all out there, just like we do in our own lives. Yeah, exactly. These guys can't help but boast about it. They're so arrogant. They're so arrogant about their agenda. They don't care. They think that just because they've got money, that they've got the right to go around and just kill and murder people indiscriminately. This is not like it's like in Nazi Germany, where it was just against one people group. This is about every single person, woman and child, indiscriminate killing, indiscriminate poisoning. And when I'm phoning up the police saying, hey, I've been attacked, I've been targeted by civilian planes, or I'm reporting on this, they don't want to know. It's unreal. And that's what's so heartbreaking. And we're getting to the point of just like, you know, the warnings are going to stop real soon, guys. At some point or another, they're either going to, you know, sort of like shut every sort of like platform down, or the Lord's going to come, more importantly, hopefully, and take us out of it. And then it's all going to end. And who are you going to have that speaks out these messages of truth? You're going to have no one there to speak about it. And this is what the Lord's, you know, literally sort of like been placed on my heart personally. Just keep going. Just keep going a little bit longer. Keep going. Keep at it. Because this is our job. What a privilege to be able to be a signpost and to say, no, be careful. I'm going to watch you guys. I'm going to keep an eye on stuff. I'm going to study to see what's going on here, so that you can have as much information as you can handle. Not just tell you what it is I think you should be listening to or do. Yeah, exactly. I saw that as well, JP. The babies we eat. Cannibals love drinking blood. Just perverts and sycophants, really? And they want to silence us? Surely you should be silencing those predators. Thank you, Ashley. Please, yes. Our backup channel, please take a little bit of time to go over there. So they shut us down. We've got that, and we're going to keep on going here, guys. Oh, bless. Yeah. Yeah, there's so much spraying going on over at the moment, as well as they're weaponizing the weather against us also, using that against farmers, using that against others. They ain't going to burn you out. They're going to drown you out. So they've got no idea what they're doing to God's earth in advance of what he's going to do through the seals, the bowls, and the trumpet judgments. 21 of them. They've got no idea. They're going to. And that's why I fluctuate between having real empathy about those that are left behind, but then there's another part of me that's just like, actually, no, because you've been warned. At some point, that needs to mean something. You've got to follow through, just like the rules of engagement. You have to follow through. Yeah, exactly. Overcomer, those babies' blood cry out, and they want to go drinking all of this. The vampire balls, as Putin turns around and says. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Okay, then, guys, I'm going to leave it there for us today. All right. We looked at a couple of articles, looked at some headlines of the day. One of those is the CDC issuing a public warning: don't get the COVID vaccine. It's not safe. And in other sort of like news as well, we were talking around, you know, the consequences of actually ending up taking the COVID-19 vaccinations, and a doctor there speaking out against this, literally saying that those that are taking this are having their sort of brains altered by the vaccines. Their intelligence is being diminished, their clarity diminished, willpower diminished, as well as their intellect being diminished by taking these vaccines. So I'll put these articles in the description box there for you guys. So if you want to go near some of these medical terms, knock yourself out. I sidestep that, and I'll put a little meme on the sort of like thumbnail for us, and then a few videos. Guys, can I encourage you to, you know, sort of like, you know, interact with some of these? It's not so that I get more growth, it's so that this can get more circulated by giving it a thumbs up or adding a comment, whatever. I try my best to, you know, make effort to engage with you in some way, shape or form, not like some other places that just ignore you or don't even have their comments on. Use that whilst we're still here. Guys, we'll be back tomorrow, assuming we'll still be here. Looking forward to obviously the 22nd of September. And if you're over here in the United Kingdom, then the high watch time starts in and around at 4:30. Where it will be 6:30 in Israel, because they're 2 hours ahead of us. And then that will be officially the start of the 23rd. If you're down under, then you'll have that a little bit earlier as well. You'll be the first to have some of that. So looking forward to the high watch time. After a little bit of thought, guys, I didn't want to, I'm not going to actually do a live stream throughout it. I want to personally, privately watch and have what I would usually, you know, have as a routine during this high watch period of time. I'm aware also that Michael over at Medic for Christ is going to be going live there himself, so you can check in to that. But I just wanted to have this moment with myself and the Lord and be watching and camping out, you know, ready and waiting, hoping for him to come. So thank you, guys. God bless you. Hi, Asher. Bless you. Thank you, guys, for the pleasure of your company, and we will talk again soon. All right now.